Hello everyone, this is Vampire Helly, and typically we do ASMR on this channel, but today, ooh, I love the snow, it's snowing. Today we're going to be talking about maybe a little bit of a controversial topic, but I feel like it needs to be talked about, and I've seen this tag going around with a lot of witch content creators here on YouTube, so I thought that I would chime in my own way and do something similar, but discuss the pros and cons that I have with the living vampire community. I do want to offer a disclaimer that not all vampire communities are like this. It's just something I've come to notice in a lot of bigger communities, and I want to put this video out there just so that if you're new to searching for a community of like-minded people, that you do some thorough research before joining any kind of group or community or hangout space, and keep your mental health safe. Because the internet can be a wild place, and a lot of these things take place on the internet. So that is what this video is going to be about. What I feel is a pro, what I feel is a con about the living vampire community. So first of all, what is a living vampire? I did a video about this before, but I'll briefly touch on it. A living real-life vampire is not like the fictional vampires of Bram Stoker and Anne Rice and Twilight, but a living vampire is someone who takes energy, whether that's ambient energy, which is energy that's all around you, or a consensual deep feeding on the energy that is within you. And then there are also vampires who practice sanguinism, although I feel like I am not qualified to talk about sanguinism because I myself am not sanguine. I am a psychic vampire. I take energy, so I will encourage you to do your own research on sanguine vampires. But basically, that is what a living vampire is. It's a spiritual path, and yeah, that's it. So that is a living vampire. Let's get into the pros and cons of the living vampire communities, specifically ones I've been seeing on the internet. So let's start with the good news. Let's start with the pros. The pros, I am not even like center to the camera anymore. There we go. The pros of a vampire community. I love the idea of it. I love that people can come together and talk about things that maybe they couldn't normally talk about with their family or their friends or peers or anything. So it offers a space for them to find like-minded, similar people and talk about their struggles with living in a daily life, with maybe some people talk about how they wish they didn't have to hide who they were. Some people talk about how they're not hiding it, but their struggles with people judging them. And some people just live in their best life. So I think the idea is good. I think that's great that there's a community and a space for people to talk about like-minded things and come together. That's the pro for me. But there are a few cons. And again, this is not every single vampire community, so please don't come at me in the comments. I'm just the messenger. I'm just showing you guys what I have seen. And I always encourage you to do your own research and things, but this is something I've seen. And the cons I am going to list is exactly why I'm not a part of any vampire community. I'm what's called a Ronin, which means I do my own thing. And for me, it's better that way. Just because even in a good community setting, I feel like my path doesn't quite follow a lot of theirs, so being a Ronin is what's best for me. Con number one is the politics that I have seen within the bigger communities. And even somebody told me, hey, you shouldn't say this or post that because it may be taken the wrong way by this rival vampire community or this vampire community, and it's very political, and if you say this, then you won't get invited to a vampire ball, or you won't get to participate in panels or discussions, or you won't have any friends. And I've even seen some vampire friends unfortunately get bullied by some of these figureheads in the community, or people that are popular or viral online. And it's just sad. I don't understand the bullying within the community, that part. That's crazy to me, that someone who is already, saying, hey, I am so different. It's strange to me that they would bully other vampires or say they're not a real living vampire if they don't do this or if they don't follow that spiritual path. It's just bizarre to me. So the bullying thing is weird. Again, that's very rare to see bullying, but it's not so rare to see the politics side of it. There's a lot of butt kissing. I've noticed there's a lot of butt kissing within the leaders or figureheads or popular content creators within the community. And it's almost to a point of obsession where if you take a step back, you see how weird that is. And it gives me the ick a little bit. Of course, people are allowed to be obsessed with whoever they want, but it's never like, it never feels like it's quite a healthy thing. It always feels like, it always feels very butt kissy, and there's a lot of butt kissing, and if you kiss the right butt cheek, you may get some recognition within the vampire community, and I don't like that. I don't like that I'm seeing that. I don't know what you guys are seeing. I'm seeing that. So that's a huge con in my book, is if you kiss the right butt cheek, you may get promoted on Instagram, or you may all of a sudden be their best friend for a couple weeks until you say something they don't like, and then all of a sudden they should be shunned from the vampire community. I'm not about that life. I'm not about that life. And even I, sitting here talking about this video, am very hesitant to name names and groups and associations because I don't want to get bullied. It's not a good feeling when people are like, you're talking about so-and-so, or you said my name, and that's not true. And that's not what I'm trying to do. I am creating a video to open up a discussion, not to call people out. I think that I am just a little silly vampire who likes giggling and wiggling and being silly, and I am not at the point where I feel I'm not at the point where I feel I need to just be calling out people and slaying names and all that. I'm just opening up a discussion. That alone is taking a lot of courage for me, so please be kind and merciful to me in the comments. And this is just a discussion opener. I want you guys to see these things for yourselves and make your own conclusions, because maybe what I'm seeing is not what you're seeing. And it's always good to do your own research and see things for yourselves, but because I haven't seen a video about this made yet, and if you are new in the vampire, if you're new to come out of the coffin, that's what they call it, that's the term for it, when you step forth and say, I am a living vampire. They call it coming out of the coffin, even though vampires don't really sleep in coffins, but I digress. I just want this info to be out there so that you can protect your mental health and safety online. Con number 2, which kind of goes into the butt kissing con a little bit, is the fact that I have noticed there is a lot of ego-based bases in this sphere of the vampire communities. Especially when it comes to the figureheads, but also when it comes to the members. There are some communities where in groups you can kind of move up in levels, and if you get certain achievements, I think you get, either medals or things to put on your necklaces, or things like that, and it's very welcoming and open to a lot of ego-based things, and I feel like being a living vampire for me is a individual practice. It's something for myself. It's not something to parade for the world. I don't care what color my necklace is, or if I have a medal on my wall that says I'm a better vampire than so-and-so. I'm not a better vampire than so-and-so. We are all the same. We're all just trying to live our best lives. And it please don't come at me again. It kind of reminds me of things that would happen in church growing up. I was in a lot of programs for children that had a very similar statue of moving up to things. And it's a little weird for me. Maybe it's fun for you. Maybe that's something you're doing for fun. But in my case, watching other people who have gone through these systems, they're very braggadocious about getting these awards and achievements and titles and things. And for me, that kind of washes away the whole point of being a vampire, and which is being a vampire is beautiful. Taking energy and feeling it and studying and learning more things. That's what being a vampire is to me. But for some, like the ego, the title, all this stuff, it's getting in the way of what a living vampire truly is. And that's more sad than anything. But yeah, that's my other issue with the vampire community. Another issue is, and a lot of these kind of go together in a way, but another issue I have is gatekeeping. And I also want to preface this by saying I think some things should be kept to oneself. And I honor and respect and love the fact that there are practices that are closed practices. I think it's important for cultures to have things that are their own and that they can celebrate in. But the line for me comes when somebody who touts themselves as being so advanced, like they brag about how advanced they are. It's okay, picture someone in a leadership position in the community or a social media influencer or whatever, bragging about how much knowledge they know. And then reading all these books saying that they know this and they know that and they know life and they know the afterlife and they know so much. Name the books they're reading or name the websites they're reading about, and then when people ask questions, like beginners ask questions, intermediates ask questions, then it's all of a sudden, oh no, you can't read that, you're not ready to read that, it's too dark, it's too deep. Bull crap. It is not up to anyone except for you to decide what knowledge you are ready to consume. If you crack open the Violet Throne and you're like, whoa, this is too much for me, you can close that book, come back to it another time if you want, or just never read it again and read, something lighter. That doesn't make you any less of a vampire, but it's not up to other people to decide what you are and are not ready for. Just because someone has been practicing vampirism for years or someone has a specific title does not mean they get to dictate how you live your practice as a living vampire. It's wrong. I've seen it so many times. It's gross. People wouldn't do that in other aspects, so why do they do it here? That behavior is toxic and it needs to be called out. If you feel like you want to read something and learn it, maybe you don't want to practice it, you should be free to read and learn anything you choose. And if you like something or don't, or if something feels right for you and something doesn't, you take what works, you leave what doesn't. That should be common practice, but instead I see a lot of people gatekeeping their knowledge or bragging about their knowledge and then being like, oh, you're not ready. Only you can decide when you're ready. Lastly, my final issue with the vampire community is this sort of herd mentality that seems very churchy when you take a step back and look at everything. Because I have seen it in groups where people all kind of dress the same, wear the same type of makeup, listen to the same type of music. But if you're not gothic or you're kind of gothic, you're if you're not those things, you're still a living vampire. You can dress in all pink and still be a living vampire. So that's like small potatoes, whatever. That is the least of the concerns. Everybody loves black. I love black. I love dressing in black. I wear black a lot. I wear black lipstick sometimes. I like metal sometimes, but I also like folk music. I like dressing like a hobbit. I'm goofy and silly and not macabre and dark and mysterious at all. Maybe a little dark and mysterious, but overall, I'm a silly woman. So a lot of times one can be bullied in these communities for not following a gothic vibe, and this is where it gets a little more serious for me. Sometimes I have noticed people saying you're not a real living vampire if you don't worship a dark god or goddess or nothing. If you, for example, I worship Odin, I have been told that I am not a real living vampire because I don't worship Lilith, who is the goddess of vampires. Lilith is cool. I have nothing against Lilith. Lilith rocks. Love her. But she is not my deity. She doesn't want to work with me. She's like, I like you. You're cool, but not right now. So I respect that. And I worship a different deity. And then there is also the issue of the books. Gonna bring the books back up again. There's the issue of people saying that you have to read this, and you're not a real vampire if you don't. If you don't read this book, people have said then you're not advanced enough in your knowledge. They say that you shouldn't read this book if you that you shouldn't read this book. Again, that's part of the gatekeeping. I literally had someone be like, you're not ready for this book. I read this book. It wasn't for me. But I was bullied about it. But anyway, people say that you're not a real vampire unless you read this book. And if you read this book, again, not a real vampire because you're following a different religion. Here's the thing. Being a vampire is not a religion, and that's the issue for me, is that there are communities out there that are kind of taking it and almost making it a religion, and it's really churchy, and I don't like that. It's not for me. That's not the vibe for me. And I want you to know that there are communities that do that, so that you're aware before getting into that it is unfortunately something that happens a lot. You don't have to read this book. Here it is. You don't have to read this book. You don't have to read this book unless you want. You don't even have to read this book. You're still a vampire. You are born this way. It doesn't matter what religious path you follow. That's a whole separate thing. Vampirism is energy work or sanguine stuff. It's not a religion. You're not worshiping anything. You're doing energy work. But me personally, as a living vampire, I do have other magical practices. I do practice witchcraft. I do have deities. I do use crystals. Not every vampire does. And there are different religions and practices out there. Some people follow different paths. Some people follow no religion. Whatever you do, as long as you're being safe for yourself and others, you do you. You don't have to follow what everyone is doing in order to be a living vampire. Follow your own heart. That's that. And then, of course, I do have communities and books and things that I recommend that aren't so churchy and that leave a lot of room for inclusivity and being your I have such a hard time with that word, being your individual self. And we'll talk about that on another video, because I do want to hype up some people, because like I said, not all vampire communities are this way. I have just noticed it with a few bigger ones, but I will talk about in the next video what content creators I like, that I feel like really bring home the concept of what a vampire is without making things churchy. I'll talk about things like that. But this video was about pros and cons. Again, I want you to do your own research before ever joining a community. Stay safe online, stay vigilant, stay sane if you can. Thank you for watching this video. Make sure you subscribe, make sure you like, and leave a comment about anything you're curious about in the living vampire world. Thanks for watching, and sleep well if you're gonna sleep, or wake up and be crazy if you're just waking up. Goodbye, my friends.